Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on the economic problem. Today, we'll be diving into some fundamental concepts like scarcity, choice, and opportunity cost, all of which play a crucial role in how goods and services are produced. I'm excited to explore these ideas with you and see how they impact everyday decisions in economics. Let's get started. The economic problem essentially boils down to scarcity of resources. Human wants and desires are endless. We always want more goods, services, and experiences. However, the resources available to fulfill these wants are limited. Because of this, we face a fundamental challenge. Choices must be made. Whether it's individuals deciding how to spend their income, businesses determining how to allocate their capital, or governments prioritizing policies, none can satisfy every want fully. This tension between unlimited wants and limited resources is at the heart of economics, and it drives the decisions and trade-offs we all have to make. The image here of a busy city crosswalk symbolizes this dynamic, with many people moving in different directions, each making choices amid the energy of daily life. Scarcity is essentially the gap between what people want and what is actually available. This concept isn't just limited to money. It includes time, labor, raw materials, and natural resources. Because of scarcity, every decision we make involves some kind of trade-off. Choosing one thing means giving up another. This fundamental idea explains why economics exists. It's all about how we allocate these limited resources to meet our unlimited wants. Here we see a clear contrast between unlimited wants and limited resources. On the one hand, people always desire more goods and services. As soon as one need is met, new wants emerge, keeping demand constantly high. This ongoing desire for more drives economic activity and growth. On the other hand, resources such as materials and time are finite and cannot satisfy all these wants. Because resource availability is restricted, scarcity remains a fundamental issue. The image here of a cluttered storefront symbolizes this tension. Numerous products and choices vying to meet endless desires, all constrained by limited supply behind the scenes. Understanding this balance is crucial for making informed decisions in resource allocation and economic planning. Here we have the 4 key factors of production that are essential in any economic process. First, there's land, which refers to all natural resources, everything from raw materials to physical space. Since these resources are limited, scarcity here really influences what can be produced. Next is labor, which is the human effort involved in making goods and services. The availability and skills of workers directly impact how much can be produced. Then we have capital, which includes equipment, machinery, and buildings. These are the tools that help increase production, and limitations in capital can restrict the scale of operations. Finally, entrepreneurship ties all these together by taking risks and combining these factors to create new products or services. This initiative is crucial because it drives innovation and economic growth despite the scarcity of resources. The image on the left illustrates this dynamic, showing hands-on work that reflects both labor and capital in action. Let's talk about opportunity cost and trade-offs. Opportunity cost is essentially the value of the next best alternative that you give up when you make a decision. For example, if you decide to spend an hour studying, the opportunity cost might be the leisure time you sacrifice. Trade-offs happen whenever we choose between competing options. These could be everyday choices like how we balance our time between work and relaxation, or bigger decisions, such as how governments allocate funding across different public services. Understanding opportunity cost helps us make more informed decisions by recognizing what we're giving up in order to gain something else. The image of the cyclists here reminds me of those choices. You might take one path or another, but each choice comes with its own set of trade-offs. Here we have the production possibilities curve, which shows the maximum possible output combinations of two goods, good A and good B, that an economy can produce efficiently. As you can see, the curve starts at 0 for both goods and rises, illustrating increasing production of good B as we reduce the output of good A, and vice versa. The shape of the curve reflects the trade-offs and opportunity costs involved in shifting resources between producing these goods. Notice how the curve peaks and then starts to decline, indicating the point where producing more of good A means significantly less of good B can be made. This represents efficient production points, where resources are fully and optimally utilized. Points inside the curve would indicate inefficiency, where resources are underutilized, and points outside are unattainable with current resources. This curve helps us understand the limits of production, the concept of efficiency, and the cost of allocating resources differently in an economy. It's a fundamental tool for analyzing how economies can use resources most effectively to maximize output. When we talk about why economies cannot have everything, it basically comes down to limited resources. If you want to produce more of one good, you usually have to produce less of another. This is because the inputs, like labor, materials, and machinery, are not unlimited. Even though specialization helps, by allowing people or companies to focus on what they do best, and technological progress can push the boundaries of what's possible, the basic problem of scarcity doesn't go away. We still have to make choices about how to best use those scarce resources to meet our needs and wants. Here, we're looking at how different economic systems tackle the fundamental problem of resource allocation. First, market economies rely heavily on prices and private decision-making to guide what gets produced and consumed, letting supply and demand play the primary role. Then we have command economies, where central planning authorities step in to direct resource allocation and production, making decisions from the top down. Finally, mixed economies combine the best of both worlds, blending market signals with government intervention to strike a balance between efficiency and equity. This approach aims to capture the strengths of both systems while mitigating their weaknesses. You can see this dynamic reflected in the modern world, much like the skyscrapers here, symbolizing complex, interconnected economic structures. Now let's focus on the concept of price signals and how prices act as powerful incentives in the market. When prices rise, consumers tend to buy less, which helps to reduce demand. At the same time, higher prices motivate producers to increase the supply of those goods. This interaction is crucial because it directs limited resources and products to where they are most valued and needed. For example, in the image here, the price of apricots is clearly displayed, signaling to buyers and sellers alike the value of that fruit in the marketplace. This dynamic ensures that goods are allocated efficiently, balancing supply and demand through these natural economic signals. Here we focus on why governments intervene in markets, especially when those markets fail to allocate resources efficiently. Markets can struggle with issues like public goods, which are services everyone benefits from, but no one wants to pay for individually, or externalities, where the true costs or benefits of a product aren't reflected in its price. Inequality is another major reason. Markets alone often don't distribute resources fairly. Additionally, essential services like healthcare and education require government involvement because relying solely on prices can lead to scarcity or lack of access. This slide highlights that government action is crucial to address these gaps and ensure a more balanced and fair system. Here we see how scarcity plays a crucial role in our daily lives through two key examples. First, household budgeting demonstrates the challenge of managing limited income to cover various expenses. This requires us to carefully prioritize what we truly need versus what we want. On the other hand, time management highlights how individuals must wisely divide their finite hours among work, education, and personal activities. Both points emphasize that whether it's money or time, scarcity forces us to make thoughtful decisions that impact our overall well-being. The image of the cutting board with raw ingredients reminds us of the tangible choices we make every day, breaking down resources into manageable parts. As an economist, I want to highlight the core principles we've discussed today. Scarcity is fundamental. It forces us to make choices, and with every choice, there's an opportunity cost. Because our resources and technology are limited, they set the boundaries of what we can produce. Every society must grapple with this challenge, figuring out how to allocate scarce goods in the most efficient and wise way possible. This concept underpins much of economic decision-making and helps us understand the trade-offs involved in daily life and policy.